Hi, friends. You are in for a special treat today. We are doing chapters 9 and 10, the last two chapters of Dave Knapp's book, Decoding GLP-1, a guide for friends and family of those on the pen. And today we have Dave Knapp. He is going to be joining us from Las Vegas. And what's really exciting is the last two chapters of his book. Chapter 9 is called The Future of Obesity and Diabetes Treatment. And chapter 10 is called Embracing the Future of Obesity and Type 2 Diabetes Treatments. And with Dave, he is in Las Vegas right now. He is attending one of the largest conventions about health in the United States. He's at the HLTH USA 2025 convention. And so he's hearing from top people in the nation about things happening with our healthcare. And he's got an eye and an ear for anything that's happening with GLP-1s. Dave is our expert, not only the man on the pen, but he also really has always had his finger on the pulse of what's happening in all the new medications coming out. He reads through all the articles and things that tell about it. He even listens to the Eli Lilly calls to see, their profit calls and all of those things. He is the man on the know, the man on the pen. Yeah, man in the know, man on the pen. So let's welcome to our studio right now, Dave Knapp. Yay!
Oh, sorry. Right now? Sorry, I was just catching up on chapters 9 and 10.
Oh, okay.
How are you guys?
Great.
Good. Thank you for having me today.
You are very welcome.
It's so good to see you guys again.
Yeah, it's so nice to see you guys again. And this is our last week on Dave's book. We've done 2 chapters a week, except for the very first week, we did the first 4 chapters. So we did a deep dive, and then we've been 2 a week because we are a weight loss book club for busy people. And today is our last session for the end of your book.
It's not a super long book, so it's perfect for busy people.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Right? As Jeff was kind of saying before, it's a lot of information packed into a very manageable book. So yes, I appreciate you guys including this and what you're doing.
Oh, absolutely. And your book is different than any of the other books we've done so far, because this book is not only for people who are on the pen of either Mounjaro, Zepbound, Wegovy, or Ozempic, or any of the new ones that'll be coming out soon. But it's also to give us tips on how we can talk to our family and friends who are nervous about you being on the shot, or if they're not nervous, maybe they're a little concerned. There's a lot of people that are concerned. Yep. And some of them have misinformation, and all they hear are the side effects. If you watch any of the commercials on TV, any drug that you take can kill you. They have to list all of the side effects, and one of them is always death, and so it'd make you think, oh my gosh, all those illnesses they're trying to treat, I'd rather have the illness than the side effect, because the side effect is death and other horrible things. But they have to mention it, even if only one person on a study had that weird little side effect, they have to mention all those things.
Yeah, the sad reality about the human existence is that we all die. And so when they do treatments and in the context of a clinical trial, that obviously can happen. It's just a sad reality that we live in. But I always like to couch this conversation and giving people the benefit of the doubt, because I think, there's a lot of people that have misinformation about GLP-1 medications that mean very well, right? But it doesn't always come across, like, it doesn't always feel good when somebody's like, you're gonna get cancer, okay, let's back this up. And so there were so many early on when I decided to write this book, and really early on when I started making content like you guys, and I'm sure you experienced the same thing, is that people were like, I don't even tell my mom that I'm on the medication. Or there are some stories where they're like, I haven't even told my spouse that I'm on the medication. I'm like, where are you keeping your medicine? Like,
Wow.
the fridge. But I mean, that's the reality. And I think a lot of, and then what I identified early on was, I think a lot of that is rooted in like typically our moms want us to be better and healthier, and our spouses want us to be better and healthier. But the misinformation about these medications is a really tough barrier to get people over. And so when I started sharing, I'm sure you guys have experienced the same. People were like, yes, yes, yes. I just wish that my fill in the blank would understand this. And so I realized that videos are great for people to share with their loved ones, but if they can just pass along like a little guide that has all the things that we sort of talk about all the time online, that this would be a very useful tool for them. So that's why I called it a guide for friends and family of those on the pen, because ultimately most of us who are on the pen know all the information in this book. Some of it I think is probably new for here, like the Gila Monster stuff. In fact, here's a fun story. You guys mentioned that I'm in Las Vegas, and Las Vegas has a professional NHL hockey team. They've had it for around 10 years. I didn't even know that. But my favorite thing that I've learned since being in Las Vegas is the mascot of the NHL hockey team is a Gila monster.
What?
Yes, it's a Gila monster.
No way!
Amazing, because as you guys got into the first couple chapters, you learned that exenatide, the first GLP-1, came from the venom of a Gila monster. So like a loose GLP-1 connection to Las Vegas.
Hey, and I wanted to ask you, because someone else asked me this, that we know the first medication, the very first GLP-1, was made with Gila monster venom.
Yeah.
There's not that in Ozempic and in Mounjaro, is there?
No, there's not. So Exendin 4 was the peptide that they isolated in Gila monster venom. And there is lore around like how exactly it all came to be. But this Professor John Eng realized that it had a blood sugar lowering property. And so they isolated this specific peptide. And what they learned was that peptide was very analogous to our natural native GLP-1. And so just the peptide structure of Exendin 4 was very close to. So the technology was originally discovered in terms of being able to create a synthetic version of that naturally occurring hormone from the Gila monster venom. But the future iterations of GLP-1s are all a pretty far cry from exenatide. It just was the first. Of course, exenatide, it was a twice a day shot. So it was the first one. You had to take it twice a day. And then you had Novo Nordisk that came up with liraglutide, which was Saxenda and Victoza. That was a once a day shot. And then you get the first once weekly, which was dulaglutide, Trulicity. That's an Eli Lilly drug. And then you got Ozempic, the second once weekly shot, which became Wegovy for obesity. And then of course, tirzepatide, Mounjaro, and Zepbound, also once weekly. And then the future drugs, there's a lot of future drugs that have popped up even since I wrote the book that they're looking to extend out to once a month or once every 3 months, or even a GLP treatment that could be a once in a lifetime treatment. So ever since exenatide, sort of the goal has been to just make it so people have to take it less, which there's mixed opinions about that, because it's like if you have a side effect and this thing lasts in your system for a month or a year,
3 months,
it's going to be, that's a lot of nausea. You're also going to need a nausea pill that lasts that long.
Right. And I'm just curious, because people always ask this. What side effects have you experienced being on Mounjaro for 3 years?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I'm going to preface that question with another little factoid, because there's just like a lot of those that spin around in my head. But according to the research, the more a patient experiences side effects, the more weight they tend to lose. So this was part of the Lilly Surmount. This was part of the Lilly Surmount trials. I personally have not had a lot. I would say the number one side effect that I experienced, that I still 3 years later experienced to today, is the day after my shot, I get what I call Terzepa tired. I am so fatigued, and no amount. I mean, I love all the videos out there. People are so helpful, but no amount of electrolytes, no amount of coffee, no amount of nothing really helps to get me over. I just feel that first day can be very brutal. It's not every week, but it's most weeks.
Oh, okay. So being tired after the day after your shot.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, the first go round up to 15, I titrated really fast and I got migraines. But I've also heard from people in my community that have had migraines improve. So is it the drug? I think probably ultimately I tend to get those when I'm not eating enough also.
Yeah.
So if I would have been
Hungry
paying
headache.
attention, it was probably related to that.
With low
That's
blood
it.
sugar.
That's it. Other than just a really good A1C, and I am, as we sit here today, I'm 55 pounds lighter than I was at my heaviest. Most of that is Mounjaro.
Yes, and I'm so excited you mentioned that because Dave, you and I are very similar. There are these super responders that lose 2 to 3 pounds every week. A lot of them that lose 10 pounds a month, month after month after month. And that's not been my experience, and that has not been your experience. And until last week, from May until last week, I'd only lost 3 pounds. And last week, I really started kicking it hard.
You didn't get back into the Smarties, did you?
No. No, that's funny. No, I didn't.
I hit him really well.
It was a funny episode about that. My camping mistake. Oh my gosh, we had camped in a candy store parking lot.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. But what I did is I started writing down my calories again. It started writing every last bite down, and I gave myself, because I wanted to go to a registered dietitian, and I figured I got to give her some data, or him some data, when I meet with a registered dietitian. So I thought, okay, for the next 10 days, I'm not going to go out to eat. And I am going to write down every single calorie that goes into my mouth, keep track of that like I was doing in the beginning.
Yeah.
And then I was just kind of sloppy. Some days I did, some days I didn't. Some days I'd make it through lunch, some days just breakfast. I wasn't being consistent. So it was time to give myself a 10-day challenge that every single bite, and without going out to dinner, then I really know how many calories I'm eating. Yeah. Because I'm making my food and looking at food labels and all of that.
And that made a pretty big difference for you?
Yeah. So last week I lost 2 pounds. Sweet. And I was so excited, 2 in 1 week.
Yeah. After 3 from May. Yeah.
From May.
You're probably dancing around the house.
Yes. And this week I lost another 2 pounds.
Great.
So
amazing.
Right now, I am 55 pounds from my highest weight.
Congratulations. Well, there we go. 55-pound buddies.
Yeah. Boom. Yeah.
That's amazing. Congratulations, Gina. I know firsthand how exciting that is. I mean, I share the news because my story is not super captivating to make video after video about, but I think as a slower responder to the current treatments, it's important that we do keep people updated on that stuff. But man, has it been a lot more fun to share good news for me lately.
Oh yeah.
And I'm sure more enjoyable for people to listen to, frankly, than me coming on saying, I didn't lose weight again. And then
here
1,000 comments like, you need to eat keto, you need to eat carnivore,
Yeah, and it's like, oh my gosh, you were like the keto king.
Yeah. I mean, I did it.
And they're done that many times.
Yep, for sure.
Exactly. But no, so it's exciting to finally see the weight go down. But that was another thing that really made me happy that I read your book. Because sure, I know most of the information, and I've been a viewer of your channel since before I took my shot, because before I did take Mounjaro, I really wanted to be sure that I really wanted to do it, so when I did my research, there wasn't that many people on 2 years ago. There wasn't that many channels. I saw you, Countess of Shopping, and I don't know. I think I might have hit Allie about the time I took my first shot.
Yeah, I can't remember when Allie started making content. I don't think she's been
She
quite
started
around.
around the same time as I did.
Patrice Denise. I don't know if you caught any of her. She was there early on. I remember too. I'm trying to think of some of the names. I had a lot of them on my show very early on when I was doing a lot of like those community interviews. Jess in Process was another one. Yeah, there were some OGs, but yeah, there wasn't that many. Like now, my feed is like there's somebody new like every day popping up.
Right, a lot of newbies are hopping on, but oh boy, back in the day, there wasn't hardly anybody. So it was really nice listening to your channel because you really do a good job of giving us the scientific facts and reading through those case studies and all that. You can take all that really technical information and you have a great way of putting it in smaller pieces that we can understand.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that because that is definitely the goal. When I make a video that I set out to just make information that's really not intended for us, it's intended for doctors, to make it accessible for patients so that they can take it to your doctor, because we kind of expect, I mean, there's certain like positions in society that we put on a pedestal and we just kind of think they're like the Pope and they're infallible, right? And doctors are like one of those people. And at the end of the day, especially a primary care doctor is sort of expected to be a jack of all trades. Right. But at the end of the day, most of them are masters of none. And so when a study comes out that shows, hey, did you know that if you have high cardiovascular risk, heart failure, that now, GLP-1s are used to treat that. And they may not know. Even cardiologists may not know that data yet because they're seeing patients every day. They're not reading every study that comes out. So we just try to empower people to know that it's out there, to give them good resources to find it, and then take it to your doctor. And hopefully at the end of the day, just live a longer, fuller, richer, happier life. Exactly.
And one of your chapters that really made me happy that I read it, because, I forgot when you study this kind of stuff for so long, you start hitting other things. And you had in one of your chapters that one of the studies that Eli Lilly did of Mounjaro, people with type 2 diabetes, the average is they lost 15% of their body weight, which was around 33 pounds. And I was at 43 pounds weight loss from my shot at that point. And I was feeling like I am such a turtle. I'm watching other creators that started around the same time as me, and they're at 70 pounds or more. Right. And I'm stuck at 43. And I was stuck at 43 because this was, I think, like 2 weeks ago when we hit that chapter. And I'm like, I've been stuck at 43 for months now. And so it was to see that I'm actually 10 pounds ahead of the game for a type 2 diabetic really made me feel better. And for people who just battle obesity without the type 2 diabetes, well, they do better. They do about 22% of their body weight, and that's around 50 to 55 pounds or so. And so seeing that really made me feel a lot better. And today, from when I started my shot, I am down 47 pounds. And when my doctor first told me about Mounjaro, he was like, Gina, there's this new medication. It just came out. So I could have started like you and been an OG, He said, it just came out. I'm super excited about it. There are people with type 2 diabetes who've lost 50 pounds on this thing. And I was at my heaviest weight ever at that point. And I was like, oh my gosh, 50 pounds, really? And he said, yes. And he wrote it on a piece of paper. And he wrote down Mounjaro. There hadn't even been a commercial on TV for it yet. And so I went and looked it up on my health insurance, and it would have cost me $1,400 a month. And I'm like, oh, I can't do that, even though I would love to lose 50 pounds because I've been trying to lose weight forever, and I do the bounce up and down, and I could never really lose more than 20 pounds because as soon as I'd lose 20 pounds, it'd be like my head was being pushed underwater. And then when I finally get up to breathe for a minute, I gain all that weight back plus some.
Yep.
And it was just a horrific battle. So the thought of being able to lose 50 pounds, wouldn't that be amazing? But we couldn't afford it. And then a year later, Jeff ended up getting bladder cancer, and he's better now. He had 2 surgeries, and his second surgery worked. So thank you, God, for that. But right after his second surgery, we had all kinds of medical bills come in, and they were hard to understand. Did it already go through the insurance? What do we really owe or not? So there was a specialty nurse that can help you figure out your bills for your insurance through the school district that Jeff worked at. And I had her check for me one more time to see if my Mounjaro would be covered, at least partially. And it was. And so Jeff's second cancer surgery was January 3rd of 2024. And I took my first shot on January 10th of 2024. And I've lost now 47 pounds since then. So I'm 3 pounds away from my first goal of hitting at least 50 pounds with Mounjaro. And I've already hit the 55 pounds since my highest weight. So that's exciting too.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think when you factor in the being on the medication, I'm right around there, like 46, 47 pounds somewhere. I'd have to look again, but yeah, I'm same thing. I had lost like almost 10 pounds without it, and then adding it all together. So congratulations. That's exciting.
Oh, thank you. And I'm asking all of my guests now, because I think we're still good for people, Dave, because if the average is 15% of your body weight with type 2 diabetes, there's a lot of people then that aren't losing 75, 100 pounds in a year,
Yeah. I actually got some really good feedback, because I just did a personal update video.
I watched that
the other day. Thank you.
Yeah.
I got a lot of comments on there from people that were like, where are my type 2 diabetics at? I want more creators who are diabetic. And I think what you just highlighted is exactly right. I mean, it's a different experience on GLP-1s for type 2 diabetics. And it's not universal. Like, there are some people that just responded, but because metabolic disease is such a spectrum, not everybody's starting from the same spot, and so important things to remember along the way, for sure.
Yeah. And I have noticed some of the people that I've interviewed who have type 2 diabetes but had gastric bypass surgery years ago, a lot of them are super responders, where they really do lose a lot of weight. But and 2 people that I'm thinking of that were guests, they both had the same thing happen. They had the gastric bypass surgery, and they lost a bunch of weight, over 100 pounds, both of them over 100 pounds. And 5 years later, they gained all their weight back. So they kept the weight off for about 5 years, and then poof, it came back. But then when they took their GLP-1, it was like a miracle, and it really helped them to lose weight consistently and pretty quickly. And at a higher rate, more like someone who just has obesity without type 2 diabetes. Because, it helps the brain part too.
Yep.
When you have those expensive, drastic surgeries, it makes your stomach smaller, which is really nice, but you still have the food noise. It doesn't take that away. And it's just amazing what tirzepatide will do for you.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. It's, the whole class of medications that just came up to the room from a panel down there. There was the chief medical officer of Weight Watchers, chief medical officer of Hims and Hers, and then a longevity doctor. And there's a lot of conversation around the way that these drugs act in the brain, and the way that each individual body responds sort of differently to the medication, but also all of the extra indications that these drugs are getting seemingly on like a weekly basis. Because as you say, it's amazing what tirzepatide does. It's so far reaching beyond just obesity. And I think this is my own personal opinion, but I think what we'll discover down the line is that our diets and our gut health, where our gut being the primary place that these hormones are made,
Mhm.
are so dysregulated from whatever, right? I don't think any of us know. I think it's a lot of things. But that these medications really are the antidote to the toxins and the things that we're exposed to in the air, in the water, and the drugs, and the food, whatever it may be, because it's just incredible how many. It seems like these drugs help to get people who are metabolically unwell back to just a state of well-being in general, like
Yeah.
beyond just the weight loss. We're talking inflammation. We're talking about, cholesterol numbers. We're talking about people going off blood pressure medicine. I mean, there's obviously more far-reaching benefits. I think, of a study that just was released recently. Now it's a rodent study right now, but it was looking at, I believe, exenatide, because they still do studies, believe it or not, on that first GLP-1.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they found that there are these things in the cells of our hearts called parasites. And after a heart attack, these parasites it's like almost like a valve. They don't open back up. And so blood flow is never restored to that part of the heart. So a lot of people experience a heart attack, and then a part of their heart is just permanently damaged. And what they learned in this study is that when they gave GLP-1 to those rodents and induced a heart attack, it saved that part of the heart by opening that valve back up.
Wow.
And the way they proved it is they used a different form of exenatide that blocks the GLP-1 receptor, and that part of the heart stayed closed and never was restored. So there's something specific, it looks like, and again, this is rodent studies, they'll have to replicate it, but I think that doctors would say we're seeing it in clinical practice, that there's something specific to the GLP-1 molecule that is cardiac protective. Like most people would argue, well, it's just so funny the way people are, but they'll be like, well, the cardiac benefits are just because of the weight loss, as if that's some negative statement to make. Like,
right.
If it was just the weight loss, great. It's
better.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's being shown that it's actually independent of the weight loss. And we saw this in the select trials with Wegovy. It didn't matter what dose you were on of Wegovy and how much weight you lost on Wegovy, you had better outcomes with major cardiovascular events.
Wow.
So it didn't matter the amount of weight loss. There's something cardiac protective. So a very long-winded way of saying that I do believe that these medications will be shown over time to just be the antidote to whatever is metabolically plaguing, 100 million Americans and more.
Mm-hmm. And I want to tell you, Dave, that I had an opportunity to be part of a liver study, and it was you could get a free liver scan and a possibility to be part of a liver study. So I thought, well, what the heck? And they were looking for people as fat as me, because I think it was my fat and my age that qualified me to come. And it was like 10 minutes away to go to this liver institute from my house. So I go to the liver institute because I'm fat and old, and my doctor never said I had fatty liver disease. They never checked for that. As far as I know, my blood work always came out fine, but they did the ultrasound of my liver, and son of a gun, I had non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
After Mounjaro?
Before Mounjaro.
Before,
okay. So this was in August of 2023.
Okay.
And they said, we can't have you be part of the study, though, because we're looking for someone that's, about a stage 3 or so,
advanced, which you don't want to be.
Right. Which they said you don't want to be. But they said, your liver changes. And can we schedule another liver scan with you a year from now? Mm-hmm. And you do need to know there's 2 ways it could go. One way, it could progress. And you really don't want it to progress, because if it gets too far gone, it'll kill you. So you don't want it to progress.
And it's a nasty way to go.
Oh, yeah, it's awful. Some of the people because the Liver Institute place had people who have extreme liver disease, because I could see them and they looked They
Oh.
looked terrible,
Oh, yeah.
super skinny, and the color of their skin was really odd.
Yeah.
And they just looked like they were pretty miserable
Mhm.
and needing to see the doctor. But they also were doing a study as well. And, but they said there's the liver also is an organ that is an amazing organ, and it can also heal.
Mhm.
And so we'd like to see you in a year. And to heal it, you need diet and exercise. And so I was like, okay, I'll try to be good,
Mhm.
And then a few months later, on January 10th of 24, I started taking Mounjaro. And then in August of 24, after being on Mounjaro for about 8 months, I had my liver scanned again. And remember, I've never been a super fast responder to Mounjaro. So I lost, I don't know, maybe 20, 25 pounds by then. So, I mean, it was, it was kind of slow go, but I lost some weight. And they scanned my liver and they were like, whoa, it's gone. The doctor came in after looking at, all the stuff that the tech had scanned, and came in and said, wow, can you tell me what you've been doing? Because seriously, it's 100% gone. Your liver looks amazing. And I said, well, I started taking Mounjaro. You always liked my liver. And
Jeff thinks you have a cute liver.
Aw,
He
yeah.
stands and delivers.
I deliver my liver. And so anyway, I told her that I'd been on Mounjaro for 8 months. And then the doctor said that Eli Lilly is also studying people with non-alcoholic fatty liver disease that are taking Mounjaro. And it's showing really well in the studies that it's helping a lot of people who are taking Mounjaro. And and so she was like, well, that makes sense. And they didn't want to see me this August because they said, well, we can skip you next year because it's gone. But 2 or 3 years from now, we kind of like to scan it again. And I said, oh, I'd come back. So in another year or two, I'll go one more time to have them take a peek.
Yeah, that's amazing. So along those lines, some people who are watching this may have missed this news from back in August, but back in August, Wegovy became the, I believe it was the first and only once weekly GLP-1 FDA approved to treat adults with MASH, which is, they used to call it NASH, non-alcoholic steatohepatitis.
Okay.
Now they call it MAFL. They change the name of it constantly, but MASH is called metabolic associated fatty liver disease, right?
Okay.
And so what they found, there was a clinical trial for Wegovy that was around 800 participants, and I think I want to say that around 500 or so were on Wegovy, and the rest of them were on placebo. And the results of that study were super positive. I think it was like over 60% of participants receiving Wegovy had MASH resolution, so their fatty liver was resolved, and they had no worsening of liver scarring, compared to 34% receiving placebo. Now, they all received lifestyle modifications like diet and exercise,
Right.
but the people who were on Wegovy did about twice as good as people just given the lifestyle modification. So when we talk about these drugs as a tool, and I love this conversation about liver health, because I don't think people don't. It's the quiet, silent killer, because it doesn't manifest itself. Liver disease doesn't manifest itself until you're like cooked.
Yes.
Because
your eyes are yellow and
yeah. Essentially what happens is liver disease progresses from what's called this fatty liver. And it's just what it sounds like. It's fat infiltrating the liver. And in a good way, it was explained to me one time by a doctor fairly recently on my podcast, who actually lost his own father to liver disease. He's like, if you think of the liver like the aerial view of a city where all the streets and roads connect and everything flows in and out of it efficiently. He said, but when fat starts to infiltrate, or damage to the liver from alcohol or toxins, he said, just imagine parts of those city blocks just get blown up. So all of a sudden, everything doesn't connect, and not everything can flow in and flow out correctly. And he said the amazing thing about the liver is that it will start to rebuild that area if it's allowed time to heal. But sometimes the roads don't always connect the right way when it rebuilds, right? And so the importance of catching fatty liver quickly is extremely important. I think the estimation right now is that there are around 15 million people in the United States alone that live with that early stage of fatty liver, but most of them don't know it, right? Unless you get
I didn't know.
Or if you're fortunate enough, your ALT and AST, your liver enzymes, may pop a little high on your complete metabolic panel, and your doctor may say, let's take a look. Mine was identified on a CT scan for kidney stones. They said, hey, you got a huge kidney stone, but also you have fatty liver disease. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. So that all came around the time of my diagnosis of diabetes. But anyways, a long way to say, like, it's incredibly important to get a hold of liver disease early, because once the disease progresses and that scarring gets so bad, that's where you have something called fibrosis, which really they have to go in and biopsy your liver to determine how severe it is, which is very painful for patients, and also why we don't have a lot of great liver drugs, because you can imagine in a clinical trial with tens of thousands of people, it's very expensive to do tens of thousands of liver biopsies. And so thankfully, Eli Lilly has actually worked with the FDA to come up with a new way to have some non-invasive forms of measurement. So you're going to see ultimately tirzepatide, I believe, we'll see the same indication, but retatrutide is even more exciting. And I saw some questions in the comments about retatrutide.
Tell us.
Retatrutide actually, so all the GLP-1 incretin drugs that we have to date work on what's called central weight loss, right? And that's really medical speak for just decreasing the amount of energy that is consumed. So that's dealing with weight from a centralized perspective by reducing caloric intake. Retatrutide will be the first medicine in the class that works on what's called peripheral weight loss too, and that's energy expenditure, and that all starts in the liver because glucose is metabolized in the liver. And so what they're learning about retatrutide is it just eviscerates that liver fat, and is even, I think, will ultimately be shown to have some potential to reduce very late stage liver disease. And so there was some questions, and I'm just going to answer it now because
and I should put on here too, it was asked by Grant, who would give me a super chat. So thank you so much, awesome. Grant. Good name, I appreciate that. And he congratulating me on the weight loss. And then there's his question. Do you think retatrutide will be available and covered by insurance? And do you think it'll be much of an improvement compared to Mounjaro?
Yeah, and Mindy's question right under that, I think are very complimentary questions. She said, do you think that they will limit Reta to folks with really high BMI? So I can kind of answer this whole thing together. So retatrutide will almost be in a class all its own. In fact, it may even be at the end of the day classified as a biological drug and not a peptide drug. There's a whole lot of conversation going on. Actually, Eli Lilly's suing the FDA over this right now. It's not super important for the purposes of this conversation, but it is important in the context of Grant's question, because if it is classified as a biologic, and so far the FDA said no, then if it ultimately is, then it'll be much more expensive. Biological drugs are insane. My wife takes a almost 20-year-old biological drug for arthritis. It is a $4,000 a month drug. And so biologics are extremely expensive. And I would expect that if retatrutide gets classified as a biologic, expect it to come to market in that $5,000 a month range. I really do think that could happen. But retatrutide, to sort of answer Mindy's question and the tail end of Grant's question, it really is in a class all its own because it acts peripherally and it has such a profound effect on the metabolic health of a person. And so to answer the question, I think it will be reserved for people with more advanced, and we've heard Lilly classify this on the earnings calls too, as a drug that is sort of earmarked for people with more severe. They're way over here, right? They're the Ginas and Daves of the world who have struggled on the current class of medication because there are things that are happening within our bodies, like non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, that aren't happening in other people. And so you have to have a drug that can help you to resolve that before you're going to see like the weight loss benefits, which is what everybody clicks on in the social media world, right?
Right.
It's not as grabby, but retatrutide is a metabolic health game changer in a way that its predecessors were not. Now, Mounjaro and tirzepatide are an excellent drug, but I think that what you'll see is as we get generics for drugs, as the cost of like Ozempic goes down, you're going to see, certain drugs chosen as a first line. And then you may a lot of people right now, if they're diabetic, before they can start Ozempic, what do they have to take? They have to take metformin because metformin's cheap.
Yeah.
And the drug companies like you to control your diabetes with cheap drugs. So if you can control it with metformin, great. But then you have to fail metformin to get Ozempic. I think you're ultimately going to see something similar for obesity where you failed Wegovy. Now maybe you try Zepbound. Maybe you don't get to where you want to be with Zepbound and then retatrutide. But I think there's also just going to be a lot of other indications for retatrutide in terms of being a treatment for MASH and really a first line treatment, especially if they're able to show that it can reverse liver damage. That would be a huge indication. So unfortunately, I think retatrutide is going to be insanely expensive. But perhaps, when drugs become the only one in its class for a specific condition, a lot of times drug companies don't have the choice but to cover it. So it'll be interesting to see for sure how this all plays out.
Yeah, thank you. It's just so neat to have you at this convention getting all the top stuff. And you already knew a ton. So this is great.
Yeah, just adding little nuggets of knowledge in here.
And Sandra is asking, when do you think the orals will come, how they'll come in price-wise compared to the injectables?
Yeah. First of all, hi to all the people in the chat, because I see a lot of familiar faces like Mindy's and
we love Mindy here, Mindy.
Yeah, and Sandra, and so many of them that I recognize from my comments too. So, I don't know that you're gonna like the answer to this question, Sandra. I was hopeful that Lilly would come out with orforglipron at a really aggressive price through Lilly Direct. But when you look at orforglipron or Wegovy, either one, whichever one gets to us first, is going to be the first oral obesity GLP-1. So it will be novel, which is just an industry term for it. It will be the first and only one of its kind. So we'll have no competition. I mean, they'll be on the heels of each other, but I don't expect cheap. And one of the big tells was the Trump administration, or let's just say the FDA, announced about 3 or 4 months ago that they were going to roll out a new program called the FAST. What's the name of it? There's this technical name for it, but for all intents and purposes, it's a fast track to get your drug approved. There already are those. They're called priority review vouchers. So a company can use a priority review voucher normally on a drug that is novel or new for a certain indication, and they will get moved to the front of the line, and it just gets done faster. They just allocate more resources to those drugs and are able to get them done. Instead of 12 months, they get them done in about 6 months. Well, the FDA announced a few months ago that they're going to launch a new program where they were going to incentivize drug companies, presumably in the context of this most favored nation's executive order, trying to get drug prices down and to cut out PBMs, that you could get your drug approved within 1 to 2 months. And so obviously there's a huge race between Lilly and Novo to get Wegovy oral or orforglipron to the market because they want to be first. But the
Right.
FDA just this past week announced the list of drugs, the first round of these drugs that were given that priority review voucher, and none of them are Lilly or Novo drugs.
Oh,
So,
okay. So obesity drugs didn't make
so
the
my sense is,
diabetes drugs.
my sense is that if Lilly was coming to the table meaningfully on most favored nations and planned on an orforglipron launch with a really aggressive price, that they would have been really going for that with the Trump administration, but they didn't. I don't know. There's a lot of moving parts here, but I'm not, because I don't think they want orforglipron sales to cut in and cannibalize their tirzepatide sales.
Oh, true. And they're making
So,
bank on that.
well, if all of a sudden people, like, I think ultimately they want to put tirzepatide patients on orforglipron for maintenance, but are they going to want to lose a ton of money in the process? I don't know. I'm just skeptical when it comes to the price of medications. It'll all come out in the wash and we'll know soon enough. But
Now,
I think
when you say-
you'll probably see them somewhere in the ballpark of where you see Rybelsus, which is still $700 or $800 a month.
And it's a pill.
Before the PBMs. Hopefully, we'll see a cash pay price through Lilly Direct at $200 or $300. I mean, hopefully we'll see it cheaper, but I think that's realistic. That we'll see maybe orforglipron at around $300 through Lilly Direct.
When you say fast tracked, do you mean that they aren't looking at it as carefully? Or
So I think that's like kind of the knee jerk, like, do we want them approving drugs in 1 to 2 months? I think what it is ultimately is it's a reallocation of resources. So instead of having, like, this is a crass analogy, but instead of having 3 people working on a drug approval, they have 30 people working on a drug approval. Something like that in terms of, because ultimately what are they doing? They're reviewing clinical trial data.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're looking at, maybe a little bit more comprehensive data than we get in JAMA or PubMed, but it's not like rocket science. The people who have to sign off on this are probably very, very intelligent people, and probably there aren't a ton of them. So I think ultimately it's just about how they allocate that, human capital towards the work of approving a drug rather than actually the tasks that have to take place.
But
They
they'll
still do
also
all these
have enough
tasks,
staff to do it then.
but they would
Sorry, I didn't
staff
hear
it
that.
better.
And so then they still also have to have enough staff in order to do that fast tracking.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of question marks. Like, does the shutdown of the government slow down all these drug approvals? Because ultimately, we're hoping to have orforglipron and Wegovy and maybe even CagriSema in the first half of next year. How long does this thing last, and how much of that work is being done? I know, like, there's work being done by a certain sector of Medicare to look at the cost of GLP-1s. And I know that program's on hold. So, like, I know things are definitely being held up in some capacity because the government shut down. But we'll just have to see.
Okay. Wow, that was that. Oh, it's so neat having you on, Dave, because you really are on top of all of that. And you did say really fast PBLM. What is that?
PBMs?
Yeah, PBMs.
PBM, that acronym stands for Pharmacy Benefit Manager. So with your insurance, most people get their insurance through their employer. And so you pick a certain health plan, you're on the United Healthcare, whatever, or Cigna, or what are the other ones? I don't know, whatever they are, right?
Kind of
So within your different insurance programs, there's a separate company that manages the pharmacy benefits. And they're called pharmacy benefit managers. Now, much of what's happened in the industry is that the insurance companies have actually bought out the pharmacy benefit managers. So a lot of the pharmacy benefit managers are owned by the parent companies of the insurance companies, and it's all about profitability. Sidebar. So when the Affordable Care Act passed, it capped how profitable an health insurance company could be in order to help control the costs of healthcare plans. So what did the health insurance industry do? Well, so it capped them at 20%. So basically what the ACA said was, your health insurance company cannot be more than 20% profitable. You either have to pay the rest back to patients in the form of reimbursements, or you have to improve the quality of and efficiency of the business, but you can't be more than 20% profitable. So what they did is they went out and they bought all the pharmacy benefit managers. So their parent companies bought the pharmacy benefit managers and took control of that. And what the pharmacy benefit managers do is they say, okay, so in the example, like CVS Caremark is, I can't remember which PBMs are owned by which insurance companies, but let's just say On the Pen Health Insurance bought On the Pen PBM.
Okay.
And now I go, well, On the Pen Health Insurance has 20 million patients. So now I can go to the pharmaceutical industry and I can say, I want a diabetes drug to add to my pharmacy benefits, but I'm only going to pay this and I need to make X amount of money in rebates for every one that gets filled. And so that's why the list prices of drugs in this country have become so inflated compared to the rest of the world, is because the list price isn't actually what patients are paying. It's what the pharmaceutical company has to set the price at in order to rebate the pharmacy benefit managers. They're essentially what they are. The best way to explain it is the pharmacy benefit managers are gatekeepers to patients to the pharmaceutical companies.
Okay.
So like, you want access to our 20 million patients for your breakthrough drug, you better pay us this much money to offer it. That's basically how it works in a nutshell. And so pharmacy benefit managers have really contributed to the rise. And supposedly what they exist for is to work deals with pharmaceutical companies to make drugs cheaper for their patients and pass the savings on to patients. But all it's done is become the place where insurance companies got their profits back that they lost from the Affordable Care Act.
I see. Wow.
So it's a pretty messed up system.
Yeah.
And patients
gosh.
literally pay the price.
Yes, we do. All right, let's look here and see.
I got about 8 minutes left before I get to jump here.
Okay. Well, Mindy is so thankful to have you here, and she is so grateful for the book. She recently bought more books to give to friends who are trying to decide whether to go on a GLP-1 or not.
Thank you so much, Mindy. Mindy is my favorite case study for the book. Like, she's the person that I wrote this for. And so it always does my heart good to hear from Mindy. Anybody who has people in their lives that could benefit to just have some better understanding. Love it.
Yeah. And she says there's so much misinformation out there. Dave's book makes it easy to dispel them and to answer any concerns family or friends might have. And I really liked page 46 of your book. If you turn to that real quick, because this is something we haven't.
Totally these last two they're not chapters, but these last two parts are really what I feel like is the best part of the book.
Yes. So Dave, will you do me a favor?
Yeah.
I'm going to read number 1. You read number 2. We'll just go down it really quick.
Sounds
How
good.
to start a conversation with a loved one about your choice to treat obesity with medication. So you could say this: I've started a new treatment for my health, and I'd like to share why this feels like the right choice for me.
Yeah, I've struggled with my weight for a long time, and I found a medication that's actually helping. Can I tell you a little bit about it?
This new treatment is helping me focus on my health in a way that feels manageable. I'd love to talk with you about what it means for me.
I've been learning about how weight and health are connected, and this treatment is a big part of my plan to stay healthy. Can I explain why I made this decision?
This medication is giving me a tool I didn't have before to manage my health. I'd really appreciate your support as I go through this journey.
And this is my favorite one because there's so many people who are super responders to these medications that show up to a class reunion, or they show up to a family reunion and they're 50 to 100 pounds lighter than they used to be. It's sort of like the elephant in the room. Everybody's going to say something about it more than likely. So this one says, I know people are focused on my weight loss, but can we just talk for a minute about how my life has changed and not just my physical appearance? I mean, that goes to all the things that we talked about: inflammation, reduction in sleep apnea, reduction in cardiovascular events. Like, the weight is what people tend to focus on. And I get it. Like, we're all kind of that way. Right? But the real benefit and the real way to get people to understand these medicines beyond the headlines is to get them to understand how it's helped you to get your life back.
Right.
Get control of your health.
Exactly. And Jeff is scrolling through for me real quick to see if he sees any other questions. Here's a question. If Wegovy goes to $150, will Zepbound follow? Good.
I think, I don't think it'll follow it all the way to 150. So my kind of loose opinion here is that I believe Wegovy is a $200 a month drug. I think when you look at the fact that anybody can go and get Zepbound for $500 a month, that right away tells me, based upon all the data that we know, that Wegovy is about a $200 to a $250 a month drug. So I think if Wegovy goes down to $250 or $200, you'll see, like, right now what's happening. Why part of the reason I listen to the earnings calls is you see that, like, forever Wegovy was up here and Zepbound was up here because Zepbound was new. Now you see Zepbound's doing this and Wegovy's kind of doing this. And so if Wegovy goes to 200 instead of the 500 that it costs, you may see it come back up like this, which is going to put pressure on Lilly to stay ahead and lower the cost. And so I do think it will lower the cost, but I don't think it means that Wegovy goes to 200, then Zepbound's going to go to 200, maybe 300. But people are becoming savvy. Like, people are watching Anchor Moments, and people are watching On the Pen and The Downsized and the Countess of Shopping, and they're learning what these clinical trials are saying, and they're going, I don't want Ozempic, I want Mounjaro. I don't want Wegovy, I want Zepbound. So people are becoming informed about this, and that's the whole reason I think, I always talk about, I exist to help patients have more competent and confident conversations with their doctor. I think it's the same reason that the Downsized do what they do. I think it's the same reason that the Countess does what she does, and you do what you do. Like, ultimately, we're just trying to share what we've learned that's helped us to live better, so you can too. And I think it's effective. And now it's not just Dave, and now it's not just Kristen, Lorraine, and Elizabeth, and Jeff and Gina. It's like thousands of people at this point between all the social media platforms. So people are learning about the effectiveness of these medications, and they're learning fast. And so I think people will be demanding Zepbound, and I think that it can, from the market perspective, command a higher price. And I hope that Wegovy comes down to put pressure on them to come down on theirs too.
And I'm hoping as well, all of us who are sharing, because that's another thing that you'd put in the last two chapters, how important community is. Mm-hmm. And you having someone ask yesterday, I want more type 2 diabetes channels, with more of us out there talking about it, being your sister from another mister, brother from another mother, willing to talk about it. We're going to be taking away that shame. So people won't have to be ashamed of their conditions anymore. They can be able to share more easily, and some of the misconceptions will go away.
Yep. 100%.
And we can be there for each other to encourage each other too, and no one has to feel lonely on the journey. Yeah. That's part of why I started a type 2 diabetes playlist before I took Mounjaro. And then once I started taking it, that's when my channel started to take off a little bit.
Love it.
And Grant has a question here. Let me put my glasses on. He says, for those that can't afford the main brands, is Roe the best and safest compound company to use? There are so many out there now.
There are a lot. So when it comes to safest, a couple things that I would just couch that whole conversation with is that the safest to me, and it just depends on how you define it, and I'm not a medical professional, I think the two things you have to
Oh, we
consider
forgot. We
are,
always say that. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Jeff usually has me say that. We're not medical professionals. Dave's not a medical professional, though he is a big time researcher. I mean, he really
Pretendocrinologist.
researches this stuff, but he's not a medical professional. So you always need to talk to your doctor. But go ahead, Dave.
Right. So instead of focusing on the company, I would focus more on the pharmacy. And we've done a lot of work to help educate on this, but 503B pharmacies are governed by the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act, and so are 503As. This is an act of Congress that created these two designations of pharmacies, and 503Bs are outsourcing facilities that are, just think of them like big industrial factories that we have allowed to exist to help to make basically exact copies of prescription drugs when they go into shortage. And they have to comply with something called the Current Goods and Manufacturing Process, which is overseen by the FDA. It's how they source their active pharmaceutical ingredients, where they come from, what they do when they get them, what they have to report in terms of adverse events, etc. So there's uniformity in how 503B compound pharmacies are operated, in the sense that there's a federal level involved. Now with 503As, it's not that they're worse than 503Bs, but 503As, there's more of a wide range of oversight, because 503As are overseen by their specific state that they reside in. And there's something called the State Pharmacy Board within each state, which makes their own rules independent of the FDA and independent of anything really. They're their state pharmacy board, so they have their own rules. And they also have their own funding. So that means that each state is inspecting less frequently or more frequently than the state next to them. It means they have more resources to inspect. It means they have different things they're looking for when they inspect. And so there's just less uniformity across the 503A landscape. So a couple of the pharmacies that I have really gotten to know well, I guess one 503A that I've gotten to know really well is Strive Pharmacy. Strive is a 503A, because the 503As are the ones that really have a lot of latitude to make the compounds now, because the shortage is over. So 503Bs have been sort of out of the game, though they're kind of getting back into it. It's all legal gray area, but the 503As are pretty much all that are out there right now, because you're getting tirzepatide plus B12 or tirzepatide plus glycine, or you're getting a different dosing that's available in the branded pens, because that's the only way you can get compounds now, because the shortages are over. So Strive Pharmacy is one that I trust implicitly, because I've gotten to know them. I've gotten to know about their systems, their processes. I've gotten to know about their sourcing their active pharmaceutical ingredient from FDA green listed vendors. So again, long-winded answer. I'm really good at that. Of saying it's important to know what pharmacy it's coming from, and then do your research on the pharmacy more so than, are you using Mochi, or are you using Roe, or are you using Hims, or are you using Noom, whatever. It's more important to know where they're getting that medicine from, so that you can go and do your research on that pharmacy. Because all the telehealth companies are basically like the marketing / doctor prescribing. They're not actually making the medicine, right? That's the pharmacy. Okay. So know where the pharmacy is, and then do your research on that. And you can look up the pharmacy, find what state it resides in, and then go to this, like Google search State Pharmacy Board, and then the suffix would be the state that it's in. So State Pharmacy Board, I'm in Iowa. So State Pharmacy Board, Iowa, or State Pharmacy Board, Nevada. So that's the best way to look that up. And Strive would be one that I would look for, because I really trust Strive.
Okay.
They're out of Phoenix.
Ah, there you go. That's good to know too. And I would stay away from the gray market.
Stay away from the gray market. If it doesn't require a doctor prescription, run away.
Run away. Absolutely. Because that can be dangerous. Someone in their garage just cooking something up and sending it to you. You don't want to do that.
South Park.
Yeah, like South Park's obesity episode, which was hilarious, by the way. Do we have any more questions, Jeff? We've got some great people visiting us. We've got Calamity Jane's in the house. Woo woo. And
do you have to take off though? We don't want to keep you.
Yeah, I got a session that I need to run down to here if nobody has any other questions.
Oh, here's a military question. Do Calamity Jane's, this one right here. Calamity Jane says, it'll be interesting if there's anything that helps move the cost down due to the call for the military to meet the updated weight and fitness standards.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I can't share too much on this, but
Good question.
I participate in a weekly call with the Obesity Action Coalition. If you all have not looked up the Obesity Action Coalition, please do a Google search and check them out. They are, the Obesity Action Coalition has been a huge part of advocacy for coverage of these medications. And now when we talk about the military specifically, the Obesity Action Coalition is trying to get some clarity on this very thing in terms of what exactly these standards are for the military and how they are applying them. And then also using that conversation as sort of a springboard to accessibility. Like, hey, these medications, obesity is a disease, right? That these medications treat that disease, and TRICARE, which is like a version of health, it's healthcare for military folks, is dropping coverage for GLP-1. So they're going the wrong direction if they want to get people fit to fight by dropping that coverage. So all those things are things that the Obesity Action Coalition is working on. So I highly recommend y'all check them out.
Okay. And do you see, and she is Tamika in the house and Kim J's in the house. Do we have any other questions? We got Twan here. I just love Twan too. She was on my show a couple weeks ago and she's a hoot. Denise Walker. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, good. And she's just saying, hey, we got Journey of Life here. And Mindy says, I had MASH and it's undetectable now in both blood work and scans. Thank you, Mounjaro. Woo woo for the win there. Very, very good.
I think that's all the questions.
Is that all the questions?
I mean,
I think there's one more that I just saw pop up at the bottom from Calamity Jane.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Who said, I know you have to go, but I'll be eager to see where the FDA is at for type 1. I know Lilly has several trials. I do think that, I'm not sure which drug particularly, but I think ultimately we'll see indications for GLP in type 1. Because I think what they're going to show, again, this is my hypothesis, whatever that word is. I'm hypothesizing based upon some early small clinical research that if they intervene with GLP-1s early on in type 1 diabetes, they can actually preserve beta cell function, and your beta cells are responsible for producing insulin. And so what happens in type 1 is your body just loses its ability to make insulin at all, right? And that's because of the degradation of these beta cells. And so if you can preserve the beta cells, you can preserve insulin function. And so I think ultimately we will see that. But unfortunately, I do believe we're several years away from that.
Yeah, and Calamity Jane, she is type 1 and she's on Zepbound. And my neighbor is I have a neighbor that was a retired nurse practitioner with type 1, and she went on it off label and it really helped her. And she just did it for a little bit. Yeah. And she took Mounjaro until she lost the weight she wanted to lose. And then she went off of Mounjaro and she's been able to maintain. She's doing a lot of exercise and all that kind of stuff, but it helped her. It helped her for a bit and she really liked it. And Good. She wears because she has type 1. So she wears a continuous glucose monitor and has the insulin pumps and all those things. But it really helped her. She liked it. And she did it for a little bit and it worked out well for her, even though it's made, they only talk about type 2 diabetes for it being made for that. But very cool. And Calamity Jane's going to be part of a local clinical trial. So that'll be exciting. And to be
Very
part of a clinical trial really is pretty neat. Even though you're doing some experimental things, they take good care of you. They really watch you. You've got
It's a great way to get free healthcare.
oh yeah, because they do all kinds of testing and things.
I want to get a liver scan.
Yeah, and you can get a liver scan too. So yeah, so that is great. Is there anything else that we missed, Jeff? Here, let's see. Any other questions? We got a lot of people saying hi to each other, which is always so nice. Community, all about that. We got Journey of Life in the house too. And Journey of Life, congrats you on your recent weight loss, Dave.
Thank you.
Weight loss twin, 55. Woo-hoo!
55.
Yeah. Well, Dave, I want to thank you so much for being on my show twice. I know you're such a busy guy, and I am a small channel. And anyone, if you're here for the first time and you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I'm trying to grow my channel. Please check out Dave's On the Pen channel too. He is amazing. If you don't already subscribe to him, you really need to, because he is on top of it. He is watching everything, and he has just the best videos. I really enjoy following Dave and have for
Thank you so much.
almost 2 years now.
I appreciate that.
All right. And for everyone who's part of the book club, next week we're doing a new book. We're doing Food Intelligence by Julia Ballou, something like that, and Kevin Hall, PhD. And this was recommended to me by Michelle in our group, and I am really excited about it. I look for books that don't tell you what to eat, Dave, like yours. I don't want a fad diet book. I've done too many of those. Been there, done that. Got the t-shirts. Don't want it anymore. But I want to know more about how food works in our body. We've learned a lot about processed food and things through. We've read Atomic Habits, The Easy Way to Quit Emotional Eating, and we've read Salt, Sugar, Fat, which was really interesting. But this one just came out hot off the presses and looks really good. Just one thing here real quick. It says, this is not just one of the best science books I have read, but one of the best books, full stop. It's funny, scholarly, and extremely important. Full of piercing observations, it ruthlessly cuts a path through the wilderness of nutritional nonsense that we have been lost in for so long. It is the first and last book anyone really needs to read on the subject. And that came from a doctor, Christopher Tolkien, author of Ultra Processed People, said that about this book. So lots of good stuff. So if you get a chance, I put it on my playlist of Amazon.com/shop/anchor moments. Look on Gina's favorite books and you'll find it there. And maybe it's at your local library and you can get it for free, for a couple of weeks and read it. And we'll be doing chapter 1 next week because these chapters are a lot bigger than Dave's chapters. So we're a book club for busy people, and we'll do chapter 1 next week. Well, thanks again so much, Dave, and for everybody in the chat. Oh, and I always say, where's my phone, Jeff? Jeff disappeared on me. Can you see, Dave, on your, oh, well, I don't have my phone. I don't know where my phone went. Darn it. I always say on the leaderboard, who was our first, second, and third place in the chat. Can you see that for us, Dave?
I can probably pull it up on YouTube quick.
Thanks, because I lost my phone. Oh, wait, here it is. I put stuff on it. All right, third place, GLP-1 in review gets to wear a crown today. Second place, Kim J's Sweet Healthy Life. And first place is our Grant Campbell. Yay! Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And thanks again, Dave. I look forward to watching your next videos about all the exciting things you learn at this health convention.
Totally. Thank you for having me. It's great to see you guys again.
All right, everybody, hold on to your anchor moments and make it a great day. Bye-bye.